I've come across an article written by Don Watkins that he wrote for the Federalist where, get this, in a roundabout way, without maybe even him realizing it, he has reduced being rich to an identity that you're not allowed to question. And that seems, completely perfect for identity politics, because that's basically what it's all about. Now, basically, he wrote this whole article saying how the rich are being victimized, how in a manner of saying, anti-poverty is code for anti-rich, that people who are against inequality are essentially just fascists, and they're oppressing rich people. The people in society that basically hold all the wealth, social power, etc. They're apparently victims now. He even goes on to use phrases like, the wealthy are people too. I can't think of any time wealthy people were treated as subhuman, or any time that they were treated as having less rights than everybody else. He actually tries to make the argument in the article, but it's complete and utter nonsense. When you're the economic elite, how do you claim victimhood? Essentially, it comes down to, well, rich people do all the work, create all the wealth, so they deserve it and no one else does. But let me be a little bit more specific with some quotes from his article. But have we ever stopped to ask ourselves, what if a rich individual's dreams means as much to him as my dreams do to me? What if he wants to be respected for his accomplishments the way I want to be respected for mine? What if he has made himself into a moral human being? Doesn't he deserve respect and admiration? And isn't it an indictment of our society when good people are treated like villains? Dude, fuck off. Now, the way that he's phrased this here is that somehow capitalism is the norm, and it's like the default setting, and anything that abstracts from that is somehow wrong. I mean, not only is that not true, even if it was, it would be a naturalistic fallacy. But I achieved what I wanted to achieve, therefore I deserve respect. Because it relies on so many hidden assumptions like, if you accomplish something economically, it's therefore right. Like, that's complete nonsense. If you created the most addictive drug ever and ruined millions of lives, but you worked really hard at it, therefore I deserve respect for what I did. It makes such complete nonsense, hidden assumptions. Like, capitalism is automatically right, so therefore anything questioning of it is automatically wrong. The fact that they don't actually address the problem that inequality causes pretty much says everything. We live in an advanced technological society and enjoy a level of wealth, health, comfort, and opportunity that our ancestors could not have dreamed of. What made this possible? The effort of producers on every level of ability, but with most of the credit going to the men and women of extraordinary ability, the inventors, the entrepreneurs, the investors who drive progress and earn a fortune in the process. It's time we stopped saying screw you and started saying thank you. Actually, I'm going to continue to say screw you. Now, the obvious flaw here is that he's making wrongful assumptions that everything that has ever been done is capitalism essentially did it. That's what he's describing here. He's making it vague so that you can claim that people who did things in feudalism are also deserving of the winning end of wealth inequality. But I mean, it also denies the very real material reality. Inequality isn't just some kind of abstract idea that exists, that, well, there's rich and poor, and that's what happens. People who are rich deserve it, and blah, blah, blah. Well, no, when someone's rich, someone's poor. There has to be a poor. So there is no nonsense conception that anybody can just rise up from their bootstraps. It's literally not possible. There has to be poor in order for there to be a rich. For someone to be on top, somebody has to be stepped on to get there. And even then, we see so many examples of people who've achieved great things who remained poor. And people who didn't take money. Tesla is a perfect example. What about the guy who invented the wheel, or fire for that matter? Just to name a few, or the guy who invented the spear. I mean, he just makes the absolute, hidden assumption that This is the only way anything can ever be achieved. Technological advancement can only happen under this way, which clearly the Soviet Union demonstrated was absolutely false. It can come from all kinds of ways. Creative and innovative people just don't come into existence only because, financial rewards are available. I mean, that's complete nonsense. That's a complete fiction that exists in his own head and people like him. There are people with talent who can succeed without having to get rich. We can take the example of Cuban doctors. They make very little, but they're still doctors, some of the most best educated people in the entire world on medicine. It's just simply nonsense. This whole post was just one gigantic big whine against Bernie Sanders and the redistribution of wealth. It's complete and utter nonsense. He feels like a victim. And that's what this is. That's when we start seeing people dying because of this, huge inequality, the rich start feeling like they're victims. They live off the entire benefit of society, but they feel like they're the whole victims of the whole thing. It's complete and absolute nonsense. For his idea of a system to work, you have to grind people into poverty. He really believes that America just built itself up by working really, really hard. Our ancestors would love to have gotten a position like this. Well, now that wealth is a little bit more, equally distributed, more equitably distributed among the United States, yeah, sure. And I'll bet people in the third world would love it too. But they are forced into that situation by the very system itself, which he pretends just doesn't exist. No. People choose to be that way. That's just the way it is. I mean, 10 million children die a year from hunger, but they choose to do that because that's just the way it is. They don't have the virtue to pull themselves up by their bootstraps or any kind of problem. Because of course, imperialism doesn't exist because that's not real capitalism, because they're state, because that's not real capitalism, insanity on. Now, I should have mentioned this earlier, but he works for the Ayn Rand Institute. I think that pretty much says it all. So I saw this and I thought, that's identity politics. He feels like a victim. This upper middle class, if not outright upper class, I don't know him personally, guy, white male, really feels like he's a victim of the social order. He's standing on top of the mountain of wealth, not just in the United States, but globally as well. And he still feels like a victim. This is a real thing that goes on in America. People really feel like they're the victim of everything, when really they're the most privileged group of people in the entire world. It's absolute bloody nonsense. And this is the fault of identity politics. If you feel like you're something, then therefore you are. That's your identity, and we're not allowed to question your identity. We're not allowed to take material reality into consideration at all, whatsoever. Whatever you think you are, whatever you identify as, that's what you are. And therefore, in your mind, you're somehow a victim, even if you're standing on top of the mountain of privilege that is the global order. Thank you for watching. Won't you go ahead, rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media. And if you want, you can head over to my Patreon page to show your support. Or you could head over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.